Welcome. My name is Brenda Lainoff. My website is brendalainoff.com. And if you're interested in Facebook and a couple of the groups, I have Healing Healers Pathogenics and Healing Healers Health and Business. So I haven't done an interview for a long time. I'm really excited about having Donna Lee on because she's a wealth of information. So I'm going to be talking to Donna Lee here and giving this space for her to bring on information as to the mitochondria. And before I do that, I do want to mention that I do offer a one-time chakra energy scan. So I go into your chakras, identify issues that could be blocking you as to your health and business. So it's a one-time offer for anyone that does come my way. If you're interested, you can just email me at Lainoff with one F, Brenda49@gmail.com. So I'll have that further in the info when I send this recording out. So thank you, Donna Lee. I'm going to just give everybody a little bit of information as to Donna Lee. And you may have seen this in the promotion. But Donna Lee is a retired RN with 40 years nursing experience, 25 years as an intuitive healer and natural health care worker, and 40 years on Donna Lee's spiritual path where she was awakened in India, which is very cool, in 2015, and divinely gifted with channeling galactic language in 2016. And it was some years later where I was really guided into light language due to my experiences in 2019 in between two major life-threatening surgeries. And I thought, I'm stepping out. Donna Lee was there to help out, and she provided a course that really gives a lot of information, not for speaking light language necessarily, but for all sorts of areas, physically, mentally, emotionally, and she'll get into this later in the call. But so welcome, Donna Lee.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to be talking about mitochondria, and I'm seeing, yes, mitochondria will come up, and different speakers will, or teachers, I guess, will mention mitochondria. But honestly, I don't know tons about it. And it wasn't until you started speaking about it recently, and I thought, you know what, we need to do a call because you're a wealth of information in your manual. And so I was going to ask you, what was it that made you guided to look specifically as to the mitochondria? Like what's that all about? Why were you guided?
Well, being a nurse, my original focus was on all the organs and glands of the body, and I kind of missed over this. I knew mitochondria existed, but I didn't know much about it myself. And then somebody put on a webinar and talking about the mitochondrial function. I thought, wow, I've been missing a really important piece here along the way. And it was really quite eye-opening to discover this, because mitochondria is involved in every part of the body. So it is absolutely crucial. And so as I explored and doing the workshop helped, and also doing more research on my own as well, I put together quite a bit of information here. But basically, the mitochondria are the energy pack for the body. So the white blood cells are the only cells in the body that do not have mitochondria, and they are the powerhouse cell. So they take in carbs and fats and they pump out ATP. The highest density of mitochondria is in the brain and the heart, and the mitochondria comprise 35% of the heart density mass. That is big. They are all key in MIs, atherosclerosis. The mitochondria generate 95% of the total energy demands of the body. So if we're tired, it's
Right.
usually because the mitochondria are not up to snuff.
Can I
So
ask you
all
before we go on, can you, for those of us that do not know, when you say ATP, what does ATP represent?
ATP is it's short for adenosine triphosphate, and there's also ADP, which is the adenosine diphosphate. So
Hmm.
those are chemical names for them.
Yes.
And they are key in what the mitochondria do. So these are the energy producers.
Okay.
So the mitochondria are in all the organs and the glands, the vessels, capillaries, the alveoli, the muscles, tendons, ligaments, bones, skin. The liver cells contain 1,000 to 2,000 mitochondria in each cell.
Wow.
The heart, the sperms, the muscle cells contain about 5,000 mitochondria per cell. Sorry, and I said earlier white blood cells. I meant to say red blood cells are the only ones that don't have the mitochondria. And
Okay.
the mitochondria are key in the aging process.
Aha. That's what caught my attention, everybody. Aging. So
And
regeneration, aging. And when you said that earlier today, I guess we were speaking last night, it was aging. And I thought, okay, we need to hear about this. Like that really caught my attention. So yeah, please continue.
so the aging part was not mentioned, when I took the original course, and it wasn't till much later. And I started asking what the mitochondrial function was of various organs. And I was shocked at the answers I was getting. I thought, whoa, obviously, this is the key to aging. So between the ages of 40 and 70, we lose about half of the mitochondrial capacity. Half. I mean, that is just,
Oh,
I was astounded to learn that.
so that is why we see a sudden aging process, like,
Yes.
oh, gee.
So when I started asking for myself, I went through all the organs of my body, and on average, they were coming up at 70%. I'm 77 years old, so I guess I'm doing not too bad considering my age. At least it's not down to 50.
Right.
That
So
part was reassuring.
do you think that we can capture and increase the mitochondria levels in various ways, such as through supplements, perhaps, or on an energetic level, by exercising and that type of thing? Do you think
All
that's
of
all
those,
possible?
absolutely, all of those help. So what you would do is initially you would ask what the percentage of the mitochondrial function is so that you've got a baseline to work with.
Yeah.
And then we would look at what the mitochondrial cell division is. So mitochondria are very unique in how they replicate. Most cells of the body depend on stem cells to produce more. Mitochondria don't have any stem cells.
Oh.
The mitochondria cells are round, whereas most other types of cells are not. And so these round mitochondrial cells actually divide. They split in two. So what we can do is ask to optimize the mitochondrial cell division for new and stronger mitochondria and bringing those back into coherence with the divine blueprint. So the body has this master blueprint of how everything works in the body. And so we want to be sure that that blueprint is telling the cells to divide properly. because they have to divide and continually, so this is how they renew.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask, why are they dividing and splitting in two? But
That's how they multiply.
so that's how they, okay.
So
Interesting.
the cells can die off.
Oh, okay.
So you need cells that are there that are going to continually divide to keep multiplying, and that will replace the ones that die off.
Right, makes
And
sense.
of course, the
Okay.
newer cells will also multiply.
Hmm.
And so we can ask to program these cells so that they are, stronger as well. One of the workshops I did, they were asking for larger mitochondria. I tested that it's not necessary to have them to be larger, but they need to be stronger.
Right. So I just want to stop here for a minute. So a lot of people who may be listening to this may be, well, what are you talking about testing? So this is a process of muscle testing, and there's various ways of doing it. And you can simply Google and learn the process of muscle testing, dowsing, and come up with that information. So that's a whole other topic, but there's certainly a lot of information out there. And you can get in contact with us as to what does that look like and what are you even talking about. So not everybody's going to be aware of how we can do this on an energetic level, but much like prayer, we pray for people at a distance. This work is done at a distance, and again on an energetic level where it's not, you can't see it, but you can feel it. So anyways, I did want to mention that. And yeah, go ahead and continue, Donnelly. Just
So we can use intention, just setting intention. And you can either muscle test or dowse, either way to get your answers. So the first step is to make sure that they are reproducing. Now the production, so the mitochondria produce ATP and ADP. Those must be in perfect balance. And these are the parts that create the energy. So they are absolutely crucial. So the inner membrane of the mitochondria is the active site for the electron transport chain and the ATP production, and it plays a role in cellular respiration as well. And these are the cellular energy generators. The ADP, it provides and transfers energy for the cells. So it's moving the energy around. And so that's why they have to be in perfect balance. You've got to produce it, but you've also got to be able to move it.
understand. Perfect. Okay.
And this can affect the T3 portion of the thyroid levels. It affects the gut and the mitochondrial axis. ATP is made by utilizing energy released by oxidation of foods that are eaten. Also glycolysis and oxidation is in a process of cellular respiration.
Mhm.
So it plays a very large role in the function of the body. And I find it interesting that we don't see the medical field looking at this at all as part of the healing process.
No, and I would just made a little promo for our call today, and I said I never had any medical person talk to me about the mitochondria, and especially as I'm seeing how it affects the body uses sugar in response to insulin. So if you have, sorry, I'm reading this and I'm on your comment, but if you have low mitochondrial function, it can lead to insulin resistance.
Yes,
Huge.
it is. So yeah, this is a huge player in how the body functions. Absolutely huge.
Wow.
So the mitochondria are the energy powerhouse of the cell, but they're also a cell signaling unit, and they can trigger the initial stress response. So signals can affect the genes and epigenetics. They are also environmental sensors and can be damaged by toxins.
Mm.
So with the mitochondria being major cell defense sensors, they're also regulators and respond to the oxidative stress and to cytokines. Now, when there is inflammation in the body, they go into cell defense response mode, which is
Oh,
low energy.
that's a huge part because I believe most people have degrees of inflammation.
Yes. Yes, we usually do somewhere, for some reason.
Mm,
And so this can actually result in atrophy.
oh,
By 70 years old, 50 to 75% of that mitochondrial capacity is lost. And it affects the ability to respond to stressors and creates a low resistance threshold, which leads to this cell defense response. And it can also decrease muscle mass.
oh, okay. I just want to go back to the 70-year-old business, and because I'm up there. And so when we have the stresses of everyday life, we've gone through COVID, through political issues, upcoming political issues, world issues. It really is taking a toll on us, especially after a certain age, if you're not producing the optimal levels.
Absolutely. So just the normal day-to-day stresses, and then you add to it everything that we've been through for the last, 3-4 years. I'm sure that people's bodies are really suffering.
Right.
So
And we're just not made aware of this by the medical community because maybe they haven't been educated really themselves as the medical doctors. It may not have been a priority in the studies. I'm just saying. So
that's right.
otherwise, I think this would have a larger play in our day-to-day life. We would have that knowledge, and then it would make sense for a lot of the things that we're going through.
Yes, yes. So mitochondrial capacity equals homeostasis. So it's energy mode versus defense mode. And this can be affected by hormones, oxidation, inflammation, toxins. So we want to return all of that back into the coherence with the divine blueprint. Now, there's also something else that we need to look at. The NT factor phospholipids are needed to be able to repair the mitochondrial membrane that's influencing the capacity. So we may have to return that back into coherence with the divine blueprint. Again, we're using intention for all of this. So we're just giving instructions to the body, the energy field of the body, and it can carry through.
Interesting. Now, is the mitochondria also vital for regeneration? Like,
Oh,
for
absolutely.
example, if we want to regenerate, we were looking at this earlier, still working on the process, but to regenerate an organ, a gland, and tissue, etc. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would. Okay, so it would have a large role in this whole regeneration process.
Yes. Yes, it is crucial. So,
But sorry, but would the mitochondria then be one of the most essential areas to look at before we get into regeneration of anything,
that would be my first go-to before going to the
yeah,
regeneration. Yes.
okay.
So look and see if you may not have to do a complete regeneration. You may just have to deal with the mitochondria
Hmm,
and
I
get that done,
see.
and then the body will just fall into place and start the regeneration on its own. Depending on, what the other factors are.
It's interesting. And also, if you were to then clear out any inflammation toxicity, would you suggest to do that prior to increasing the levels of mitochondria?
Yes. When I'm working on somebody, I'm going to look at the pathogens and the toxins first for
Mhm.
whatever the issue is. And is there any emotional factors that's perpetuating any of this stuff as well? Get those cleared out of the way, and now we're creating a healing field for the body so that the factors that were holding it back and causing a problem are out of the way.
Hmm,
Then we can start the healing.
perfect.
So I was quite shocked to discover that mitochondrial biogenesis, this is the production of mitochondria, they don't have any DNA like the rest of the body. It's unique to the mitochondria, and they're round.
Oh,
So the mitochondrial DNA is round, and they have no telomeres, like the
oh,
other body. So they're very unique. And they have 37 genes, 13
wow.
of which provides instruction for making enzymes, instructions for the mitochondrial function coding, and synthesis of proteins. So this is so different from regular cells. You know, it's a very different way of looking at everything.
Hmm.
So we may need to return the mitochondrial DNA back into coherence with the divine blueprint. Or if that blueprint has been compromised, then we may need a new blueprint. And what we can do is retrieve a healthy blueprint from a previous lifetime.
This could be going to get curious, it could be for some people, learning kind of like that. So when it needs to be totally open to the information we have seen here today, that's exciting. The frontier times of so much was being said, and many of us that do the energy work, it's like normal discussion, like, oh, yeah, we're just gonna, do this and do that. But for some people that may be listening to the replay, they'd be, what the heck are you guys talking about? But yeah, do continue on.
So the mitochondrial DNA is inherited from the mother. So this can bring forth inherited conditions, such as proximal myopathy, exercise intolerance, cardiomyopathy, diabetes mellitus, deafness, optic atrophy. So here's a new area to explore when we're working with clients that have inherited conditions, or maybe not even realizing they were inherited conditions.
Around physical conditions that we've had may have been a lot of it inherited.
So I found that really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where we would want to go in and find a new blueprint to bring it in.
No problem. Okay, what are some of the conditions, like if you have, low mitochondrial dysfunction, what kind of physical issues have people seen or been documented?
Well, the mitochondria are involved with everything in the body. So unfortunately, it's been overlooked.
Yeah. Because I'm just looking right now, and because I was thinking this before, more so because we were on the call today, and simply for chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, that's something I've been dealing with personally as one thing only for decades, simply decades. And I'm excited to see the possibilities of this, Donnelly, and where we can go with working specifically with the mitochondria.
Yes, there's quite a bit that we can do, with it, and to get things back on track and functioning properly. So things like can be affected, things like temperature, the immune system, blood sugar, even cognitive and physical exercise. So these kind of things can create resiliency, and they easily translate into how effective the mitochondria are in the systems. So mitochondria initiates through different proteins, a normal immune activation. It generates the heme to produce the hemoglobin, and it affects the biochemical pathways and the ability to recover. See, and this is another important piece. We're doing all kinds of work, but for some reason, they're not recovering.
Hmm.
This explains why not. So the ability to heal ourselves and have homeostasis, it's all energy dependent.
Mhm.
And the mitochondria are our source of the energy.
Mhm.
So the mitochondria also affects how the body uses sugar and responds to insulin. So the low mitochondrial function can easily lead to insulin resistance.
And if you have insulin resistance, that's all related to like weight as well. Like for us that are, I mean, I was just looking this morning and I thought there's got to be other things involved here. I don't eat a lot, and yes, there's some things I shouldn't be eating, and yes, there's hidden sugars and all of that toxicity everywhere, but there's more to it than this. And so this I feel could be a really missing part when it comes simply as to our weight. If
I
we're
think,
insulin resistance,
yes, there's just so many things at play.
gee. Well, I'm glad that you brought this up. And um, is there anything further? And then we can just open up if anybody has any
I've got
questions or,
more to share.
oh, go ahead. Yeah,
So
please.
we also need to clear and optimize mitochondrial mitophagy of things like lack of sleep. So these are things that cause the mitochondria to have problems. Overeating, hormone deficiencies, emotional imbalances, energy blocks. Check for also contracts and agreements. Those could be affecting the mitochondria. Worn out mitochondria should be cleared out to make way for the new, and accelerating the mitophagy through intention. You could also create a program to run daily and just determine, for how long it needs to run. And it could state, with the God that I am, I ask to increase the process of mitophagy to clear out worn out mitochondria throughout the body, to run daily. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. So there's one way of just, we can go through our body. I've been going through my own. I've gone through organ by organ by organ, and I'm trying to bring it up. But if you have a program in place to keep it there, once you've brought it back up, everything's going to
Mhm.
remain functioning much better.
Now, when you say create a program, there might be some questions as what do you mean, Donnelly, create a program? So when you create a program, what does that process look like for you?
So it's asking God to help keep things, whatever you're asking for. So it's to increase this process of mitophagy, to clear out the worn out mitochondria so it's not dragging the body down. And then, of course, movement and exercise, good sleep are going to help maintain all of this. Also, breath work is very helpful. Saunas and cold
Hmm.
are helpful. So, jumping in real cold water or turning the shower on cold at the end of the shower. So all that stimulates the mitochondria to keep renewing.
Right.
Also, the mitochondria are involved in coordinating the metabolic response. So they're the first to detect when anything is wrong, including nutritional, psychological stress, sleep deprivation, toxins, or infection.
Hmm.
So these mitochondria, they're almost like frontline
Well,
workers.
they,
Everything, they're reacting.
they're the frontline workers. I like that analogy, but it's true, isn't it? And we had no idea. And why is this not discussed, do you think, in the medical community? Any idea?
Well, the medical community is so focused on pharmaceuticals fixing
Yeah.
everything. They just haven't dug that deep.
Yeah. Well, I guess
Maybe
it's
in the future they will, who knows?
time for us to step up with what we're doing and fill in that gap. Um, Yeah, no, continue on. I know there's a lot to it, and then I'll open up the line here for anybody who wants to ask questions. But yeah, continue. It's a fascinating subject.
So hormones such as estrogen can affect the mitochondria, particularly the heart. Now, who would have thought?
Ooh.
Also, the mitochondria requires optimal oxygen. And then check your glucose levels and the ketones. Also, you want to be checking for free radicals, oxidative stress, depletion of antioxidants, chemical loads, neurochemicals, and the body's ability to detox. That's another really important factor. Can our bodies detox? We're confronted with so much everywhere. It's in the air, in our food. You know, we're just surrounded by it. So we can protect our mitochondria by ensuring that we have a healthy detox system. And like I say, everything is so interrelated in the body. So you have to, go down to the small levels, those little microscopic areas. You can't just look at the large, the organs. You have to go down to the smaller, to the cellular levels to really get to the bottom of it. Sometimes we can get away with just, doing something for the large organ. But if there's a lot of illness going on there, a lot of dysfunction, you've got to go down to the cellular level, look at the mitochondria, look at the cells, look at your epigenetics. Also, check for overmethylating, and of course, inflammation that I had mentioned earlier, damaging the mitochondria. Melatonin helps to optimize mitochondria. That's critically important mitochondrial antioxidant that interacts with the internal antioxidant defense system. Also glutathione, superoxide dismutase, and a catalyst and for heme oxygen, and some of the other internal antioxidant defense systems that recharge the system at night while we sleep. And the mitophagy mostly occurs at night during sleep. Now, interestingly, the mitochondria do have the ability to produce their own supply of melatonin. But also exercise, red light devices also help to stimulate the mitochondrial production of melatonin. Sufficient sleep is equally important, and the circadian rhythm. Also, you want to check biochemical pathways. Taurine levels are important for energy production, especially when it comes to the danger response, cell danger response, where there's fatigue, inflammation. Also, you would want to optimize the telomerase enzymes for the taurine. And it's one thing to have the taurine, but the receptor cells must be able to receive the taurine. It needs to be able to transport it and to metabolize it and utilize it in cases of fatigue in particular. So there's so many different areas, that are concerned with the mitochondria. Also, there are mitochondrial peptides. So we want to be sure those are optimal and keeping them healthy. We can reprogram the mitochondria to accept and process glucose and fatty acids. This would be crucial for cases like rheumatoid arthritis.
Yes.
Also, the mitochondria communicate with each other and with the energy field throughout the body and the aura. And so this can become corrupt, so it may need to be reestablished.
So just a question. So if they're not communicating with one another, there's a breakdown. I wonder why they would not be communicating.
Well, toxins,
Mm-hmm.
chemicals, that sort of thing can cause those kind of dysfunctions.
Could that be toxicity, maybe that we received in vaccinations, or could that be part of it?
I'm glad you mentioned that. The vaccination,
Yes.
that goes right back to early childhood. All the vaccines that are being given now, and yes, they can damage the mitochondria in the body. They can cause a lot of damage. And they can also trigger problems with epigenetics as well. And I've been finding that vaccines have been creating issues and causing things like ADHD, autism. These are conditions that used to be very rare, and now they're becoming quite commonplace. And this is one of the reasons. At least that's what I've been finding in my
Yeah.
experience.
Yes, I've heard that. Can definitely create issues like that. So I'm wondering if we can, on an energetic level, plus all the other ways of, eating right and exercising and all that, but if we're on an energetic level, by increasing our levels, that's a really exciting area to get into. And just, I mean, so many of these things, I mean, just for myself personally, rheumatoid arthritis, chronic fatigue, so many things, so many surgeries. I've just personally had a long, and I'm going, gosh, wouldn't it be interesting to really work with it and see where you can play with it, creating these, like you say, a program, putting a program in place, and then where we work together and check in, and perhaps we're muscle testing the percentage of the mitochondria has produced in 1 week's time, etc. So this is exciting, Donnelly. I'm really glad that you've brought this up. I know there's tons more you could probably get into. Is there anything further before we open up
I think
the
we've
lot?
covered the bulk of it.
Well, you
Yes.
know what I do want to talk about before I do open it up, and I think this is really important for people to know about. Donnelly, I've had her manuals, I don't know, 6 years or something. It feels like about six, it's been a lot, years and years,
It's been
going
about
back, yes, going back to when you started creating these manuals. So she has a wealth of information, and you don't need to necessarily muscle test. You have an index that you can go to and check, or, is it physical? Do I go here? Do I go there? And simply go to that chapter. But can you just go over your manual of New Horizons and what people can look out for? Like, what does it involve, etc.?
Well, my manual is broken up into 3 sections. So there's a section for the physical, one for emotional, one for spiritual. The physical is the largest and has been the most demanding of all in my creation. It is quite long. It's approximately 170 pages
Wow.
of pure information. And that's not including the index.
No, and the index is where it's extremely valuable so that we can get right to it. And now, if you don't muscle test, Donnelly can help you with that, but it's invaluable. I know for myself, I've created icons, so it's on my computer. Then I test, oh, do I go to Donnelly's? Is this where I'm being guided? So it really is a wealth of information that you can have as a standalone or with whatever else you're working with. If it's
Yes.
energy work or you don't do energy work, it doesn't matter, but it's just a lot of information. And I know that you're a real researcher. That's not my forte. I just don't have the patience, but I know that you do. You really bring in a lot of information, listening to a lot of speakers, reading a lot of books, and you've taking that and make it concise into your modules, into the various portions. So thank you for that, because not all of us have the time or the desire to do the deep diving that you have done to create these chapters in your manual.
Well, I do recommend that people learn how to either muscle test or dowse, because you do need a way of deciphering what items need to be worked on. But the way that you deal with it, with the information that you determine, you can use light language, you can use intention, you can use frequencies. You know, I use, you know, all different types of ways, you know, and I ask what's the best method to use for whatever needs to be worked on. Do you need frequencies, or will intention just do the whole thing? Or maybe you do need some light language.
And the whole frequencies and light language, we can certainly get into that in some
It's a
other
form of
calls.
frequency, yes.
Yeah, and people might be going, but what is she talking about frequencies? So we'll look at that in another call, and Donnelly can talk about it. But back to your manual, if people decide, well, yeah, that's something I'd like to have on hand. So what do you do to prepare them? Like,
Well, if the person doesn't know how to muscle test or dowse, I do send them a video link on YouTube. There are YouTube videos available that teach how to do this.
okay.
You know, it's not a difficult skill to learn.
No.
It just takes a little practice to get the accuracy. And I also include a preparation part for people who are new at healing, so that they can ensure that they're well tuned in with spirit, that they are personally in balance, that sort of thing. And there's some troubleshooting information there as well, if there's difficulties. And anyone that purchases my manual, I'm always available. If they have any questions, they can either call me or email me.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm more than happy to give them a hand with whatever they need.
Yes,
There's
I
also
believe.
a lot of charts included with my manual. So there's a whole chart on how to work with the cell defense reaction for inflammation. I've got numerous charts for emotions, how to identify them, and various things. So there's a wealth of resources that are included with my manual.
And what is your email address? Let's just give that now here, and then we'll open up the line. But how do people get in contact with you?
I can be reached at galactic and then the number 4 me at gmail.com.
So galactic, the number 4 me at gmail.com. And for any questions as to muscle testing, and like how do you use the manual? So yeah, there you go. Wealth of information. Now, if anybody wants to speak up and ask questions for Donnelly, please do so here within the next few minutes. If you have any questions for her, you can just open up chat, and if not, that's fine. Just an opportunity to ask any questions for her.
I
Okay.
should mention too that I have my manual on sale right now.
Oh, okay.
So it is 550 US, 800 Canadian,
Okay.
and that is roughly half price.
Wow. Well, you know, like I said, because it's the truth, you have done, I wouldn't know, that hundreds of hours of research that you've put into this. And what I like about it is that we can have programs like, the body code as an example, but we can have these programs, but you really get into in depth. So say you're working on a specific issue, then you can ask, well, is there something within Don Lee's manual that would be beneficial that I could add to what I'm already doing? And then you get guided, and you can ask, and you can muscle test, dowse, where is it? Is it emotional, physical? mental, go to that. And yeah, it all works together. And there's no way that one, way of teaching can encompass all of the information that's out there in the universe. It's a way to work like on a collective level, pulling in information from different sources, and that's what we do. For the fact that you do have that medical background, because probably most of us don't, the nursing medical background, for the fact that you've been doing this energy work forever as well, it's a great combination. And it's combined everything and the in-depth work that you do. So is there anything else you want to mention here? I really like the idea about the whole aging process, is what we talked about as well. So I think that'll be fun to explore, and maybe, at times we can do some group calls or whatever too, Donnelly, where I don't know, we'll just sort of play with this, but right now you have an opportunity to get her manual and add it to what existing work that you're already doing. So, if nobody has any questions, Donnelly, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah.
The sale will be on till the end of the month.
Oh, okay, good. Till the end of, this is July 17th till July 31st, I guess it is. Yeah. Okay, awesome. 550 US, and contact Donnelly. And again, you can contact her at Galactic, the number 4me@gmail.com, and she's really easy to talk to. And if you have any questions, you can contact her there. So Donnelly is in, so people who may be listening, she's in Vancouver region, British Columbia, Canada. And yeah, so Sherry said, thank you, ladies. You're welcome. And yeah, we will probably be doing more of these in the future, so educational sessions. And again, I will mention here, if anybody has never had a chakra energy scan, I intuit what's in your chakras that may be in you. It's a scanning. I'm scanning in your chakras, may be in the way, blocking you as to your health and business. It's a 20-minute one, and it's complimentary only if you've never had anything like that from myself in the past. Okay, so thank you, Donnelly, and we send out the recording. And yeah, thanks for everybody for coming in. And I guess that's yeah, about that, and we'll be doing this again.
Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, thank you guys, and have a great summer. Fabulous weather, taking it in, and yeah, enjoy, be happy. All right, bye-bye.